Okay. Well, hello and welcome back to the Shallow Proclamation. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Paul. What might be quite nice for us to do is, before we launch into this kind of watch through, would be just to have a chat about our Doctor Who story. So how we got into Doctor Who and kind of, the part Doctor Who has played in our lives thus far. So what's your Doctor Who story?
I remember vividly finding out about Doctor Who. It was sort of the week before the first episode with Christopher Eccleston, Rose, came out. And I remember my parents said to me, oh, there's this show coming back that we used to watch while we were growing up, and it's called Doctor Who, and it's about a guy who travels through time in a blue box. And I was like, well, I'll have some of that. So we sat down.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, when was that?
So 2005 was when the show came back again.
2005. So I guess I was 6. Yeah. Probably about 6.
I love the idea of 6-year-old you going, I'll have some of that.
It was quite scary, wasn't it? Those, shop mannequins moving around. And so we watched a lot of that series as a family, but I remember I actually stopped because I was too scared. So like the Slovene episode where they unzip their heads.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing that and I didn't sleep that night. And so I never watched it again. I was absolutely terrified. Which to me is kind of a testament to the power of the show and how effective it is. A lot of people talk about it being some of the scariest moments they've seen were like, even the theme tune, they kind of dang. It's terrifying.
It's the behind the sofa thing. That's what people talk about, isn't it? Like watching Doctor Who hiding behind the sofa.
Yeah.
So how did you get back in?
How did I get back? I didn't until now. No, I'm joking.
Never seen it.
So I think once I'd got a bit older, my brother had kind of continued watching, and when it got to the Christmas invasion when David Tennant stepped in and his stuff, we then watched it kind of regularly, and we loved it. David Tennant was my favourite Doctor, is my favourite Doctor, I think, and been watching it ever since. It's had its ups and downs, but I kind of view it as like supporting a football team. You're committed to your team and you will always be there for it, even when it goes through long periods where the show's less good, the writing's less good. You know that one day it will get good again, so you kind of stick with it. But that's kind of my story, I guess. What about you?
Well, I have a very vague memory of seeing a clip from the very final story of the classic series, which I know we didn't video off the telly, so maybe I did catch it, but I would have only been 3 at that point in 1989, so I don't think I really remember that. My first real introduction to Doctor Who would have been in the early 90s, sort of 92, or I think, around 92, the BBC did like a series of repeats for a number of weeks. So there was I can't remember exactly how it worked, but they definitely did sort of a story from each Doctor at one point. So all those 7 Doctors, and they did it a few times, I think. So you occasionally had more from one Doctor than others. And so I saw them through that. My dad was a big Doctor Who fan. And we'd obviously videoed these off the telly, and I kind of got into them through that and really enjoyed it. There were still things in that, from the time that I think back to a kid, and I think how scary some of those bits was. I can remember 2 particular things that really scared me. One was there's a story which had Medusa character with snakes in her hair. As a child, I found that terrifying. Right. And another one which called the Demons or the Daemons. I'm never quite sure how to say it actually. And the figure of this character called Azal was very terrifying. So I got into it through that, and then I was kind of at that point. So I'm basically a child of like the what we call the wilderness years. So where there wasn't Doctor Who on the telly, and so really like no other kids at school, no one watched Doctor Who because it wasn't on, and like no one really knew what it was. And so I like Doctor Who because it was my thing. Like I was the only one that was kind of into it, and it's like a nice kind of escape from other things. And then I started buying like the VHS tapes and stuff. I think like I still got them in the loft somewhere. Like I might dig some out for this experiment and wave them in front of the camera at some point. And I think at some point I ended up with like about 50 of these tapes over the years, that I'd accumulated just buying more Doctor Who stuff. And I remember, like, you know, when the movie came out in '96 with Paul McGann, you know, that was crazily exciting for a kind of 10-year-old boy when there hadn't been any Doctor Who on the telly. I went to like a couple of the Doctor Who exhibitions, like there was one at Longleat, down that way that we went to, and we did a holiday one year in Llangollen where there was a Doctor Who exhibition there. To be honest, as a 10-year-old boy who liked Doctor Who and was kind of obsessed with it, that was like going to Disneyland for me. But in North Wales, you know.
This quirky British TV show.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a point in my teenage years where I wasn't so into it anymore, but then it kind of, you know, I kind of got back into it a little bit. And yeah, when the new series kind of rebooted in sort of 2005, by that stage I was kind of 18, 19 or so. And, you know, it took me a little while to warm up to it. I think it took me until the Dalek episode that I was like, oh yeah, this is Doctor Who now. At the beginning I was a bit like, oh man, there's like farting aliens and like, you know, plastic Mickey's head and stuff, you know, like what is going on here? Yeah, and then I loved it, you know, really got into it. I thought, and what I really liked was how everybody else loved it as well at that point, that it became this kind of cultural thing, didn't it? Particularly in the Tennant years, where everybody was talking about Doctor Who. It was on the telly all the time, you know, there was adverts, like the little BBC idents between shows that had David Tennant on and things. So it was massive at that point, wasn't it? And so for me, it's been a huge part of my life, ever since I was 3 or 4, I suppose. So I absolutely love it. And a bit like you say, like even when it's not great, you still keep watching in the hope that it will get better.
And I think you've said that even when it's less good, it's still one of the more interesting and creative things that you can see on television.
Absolutely. Even like most, even some of the worst episodes of Doctor Who since the reboot are generally better than most things on TV. So
and have a certain charm to them. A homemade feel or whatever.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, I'm now excited to kind of get into this experiment and go back through all those kind of. There's going to be loads of stories that I've got on video or had on DVD that I'll watch again, and the memories will come back. There's lots that I would have only seen once or twice. I won't have huge memories of, but I'm looking forward to going through it, because the reality is, even though I still watch quite a bit of Doctor Who, there's so much Doctor Who that you can go years and years and years without seeing episodes that you might have seen before. So I'm looking forward to getting back into it, going right back to the beginning. I think it's going to be exciting. Yeah, I'm interested to see what you make of this stuff. There's going to be some dark times, some dark days ahead. There's going to be some glorious days as well. Particularly, I think at the beginning, there's going to be bits at the beginning where sometimes episodes don't exist. I don't know how much you know about stuff like that, but some stories don't really exist in their entirety. Maybe you can let us know down in the comments how you think we should approach some of this, because we're still sort of debating a little bit about how to handle some of these. I know there are like reconstructions out there, because even though the videos are missing, the audio all exists. And so people have used what I think they're called telesnaps, and so sometimes you've got still images with the audio going on. But I know there's a couple, particularly early on, there's a story, Marco Polo, which I think is about the 4th story in, which doesn't exist at all in visual form. So yeah, let us know what you think we should do on those fronts.
Reenact them ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you say that. There are a couple of stories, I think there's one story at least that someone has reenacted. And yeah, like I said in the previous video, hopefully there'll be people who maybe join us on this journey, who maybe come in for the long haul. And there's a bit of community on YouTube. YouTube's not known for being the most community-driven place sometimes,
but it can be.
It can be. Keep it clean, keep it friendly.
You can be part of a community. Yeah.
So maybe let us know down in the comments. Maybe let us know what your Doctor Who journey is. Tell us your story of how you got into Doctor Who and what it is that you love about it. Then join us from sort of whenever, next week or so, for the beginning of our adventure in time and space.